Thanks. Thank you all. Thank you, Morgan, and you, Commissioner Carr, for that great discussion so far. I think this is a pretty significant step that you all are that timely discussion of that step too, towards solving some problems to get greater 5G connectivity out there for app association members, amongst others, to innovate and utilize the expanded capabilities of it, greater bandwidth, improved location accuracy, etc. Not trying to repeat what they were saying, but it is a good kind of bridge there. So very happy to have three great ACT members here to talk about what they do, make this even more real for you all out there who are thinking about these issues. And so I will get out of the way here. I think what we were looking at doing was giving each of you, Andrew Savitz with Canned Spinach, Vishal Singh with Precision Ag, and Mark Fisher with Dogtown Media. Thank you guys. Giving each of you, a little bit of time to give some opening remarks, talk about what you do, and then I have some questions to ask that will tie things in with this important development that Commissioner Carr was just summarizing, and then we can we'll of course follow up with a bunch of materials. So I know we intend to display a slide here that includes QR codes for here we go. Just want to make sure. There we go. So you can use the power of your smartphone right now to find more information on each of these folks as they're talking about themselves. Hopefully you can all see that too. With that, I really should get out of the way. I think the order that we had put here was Andrew, Vishal, and Mark. So go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me. So once again, Andrew Savitz. I'm based in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I helped start and run a company called Canned Spinach. We're a design and development firm focused on building digital experiences that drive action and engagement. We've worked with companies ranging from small startups to nonprofits to up to Fortune 20 companies, both within Cincinnati and throughout the U.S. So, with kind of that being said, related to this, everything being discussed today. I think coronavirus and the quarantine has been a fantastic kind of example of how critical the need for fast internet is. We've helped some companies, these small mom and pops and brick and mortar stores who have never really had to deal with anything other than people physically coming to their storefronts, helping them figure out how do we stay in business and still drive revenue when literally no one can come to our stores. We've helped much bigger brands connect people and allow celebrations of graduations and Mother's Day and other important events that people may have not been able to physically get together for, but allowed them to do that virtually. And then some of the other more interesting ones that we've worked on in the past, even prior to quarantine, we've built augmented reality apps that allow consumers to essentially experience what you would do at a dealership, but from the comfort of your home. So once again, as Commissioner Carr and Morgan were referencing earlier, some people have to drive an hour, 2 hours, or more to get into a location or a city where they can actually take advantage of some of these things. So some of these pieces of technology and apps that we create allows consumers to significantly improve the efficiency within their lives. And that, once again, is only possible when they have access to fast internet. And I think, that is probably a good intro. I can keep going. I don't want to.
No, absolutely. I mean, and I'll have some questions and stuff we can pull on some of the threads here with the key use cases. But no, that's great.
Cool.
Excellent. Vishal, are you able to?
Yep.
You want to
Hey,
thank you. Great.
no, thanks for inviting me to be part of this panel. Really appreciate it. So my company is called Quantified Ag. We're based in Lincoln, Nebraska. And what we are is we're a precision livestock analytics company. And what we do is through electronics on cattle, we're able to detect illness early on, which ultimately makes those feedlot workers a lot more effective in their jobs. Earlier on, I know Morgan gave the example of telehealth in humans. Well, what we do is also telehealth in cattle, because all these feedlots have consulting veterinarians that work with them. Typically, the veterinarian would have to come to the feedlot and see what's going on. But this way, with using our system, what they're able to do is they're able to just go on their phone, and they're literally able to see what's going on with the health of the cattle over the entire operation, which could be many thousands of animals. Or they can even narrow down to an individual animal and see an hour-by-hour breakout of that animal's health data, which would include behavioral patterns, temperature patterns, those types of things. So it's actually telehealth for cattle as well is what we do. And, not only are we benefiting those veterinarians and feedlot workers, but ultimately, this all trickles down to all of us that are the beef consumers. We are essentially getting a better food supply. So that's a little bit about what we do. What excites me about what the app association is doing, what the FCC is doing around trying to get better connectivity out there is our customers. Like I said, they are the producers of the vast majority of beef in our country. And, for them to be able to make advancements in their operations, it's important for them to be able to adopt new technologies. And for these new technologies, in order for them to work properly in these operations, which are typically in very rural areas with not the greatest connectivity, that needs to change, because if they have access to good, solid connectivity with good speeds, it means they can adopt these new technologies, and it just makes their operations way better.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Mark, go ahead.
Just want to first off thank you and the entire ACT team for inviting me today, and Commissioner Carr for giving us such a riveting insight into the world of 5G and what things look like and where we're going together. My name is Mark Fisher. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Dogtown Media. We are a mobile technology studio headquartered in Venice Beach, California, but our team is fully remote. We are focused on digital transformation and helping our partners move themselves into the 21st century through mobility, which includes IoT devices, making dumb hardware smart, focusing on medical devices, autonomous robots, drones that can fly themselves. Machine learning and the industries of the future are really where our sweet spot comes in, and helping our clients get to their full potential by indoctrinating some of these technologies into their workflows to solve problems with tech as their tool set. With 5G right around the corner and already here in some cases, we're seeing a huge amount of opportunity in telehealth and remote patient monitoring in particular. We work with a lot of medical device companies, and our goal is to enable people to get quality of care from the comfort of their own home. And we have millions of people that are moving into the baby boomer age bracket, and they're over 65 and they need access to care at home, and people are choosing to age in place versus move into care facilities. And this also goes for anybody with chronic care issues. We are now able to utilize medical devices and wearable devices and telehealth to its full advantage with fast connectivity, so that people can have quality care from the comfort of their own home or out and about, and get their health readings passively shared with their physician. And using predictive analytics, we can actually show when somebody's health is taking a nosedive and take preventive measures and intervene early to decrease the chance of somebody having a heart attack or a stroke or any type of health issue that would cause them to be rushed into an emergency room. So this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg and some of the things that we're excited about with 5G, and a lot more stories to tell soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for that. And I've got a few, kind of general questions I can kind of throw out. I really thought I'd throw them out to all of you to just, if you'd like to elaborate on them. I think you've all touched on, I think, why we're here, of course, the how improved connectivity enables what you're doing. I think it's really, definitely getting towards a theme that came up earlier, closing the digital divide. In the U.S., I think both in a consumer and enterprise context, and how key improved connectivity is for you. I wonder if, and I know you touched on, some of you, I think, especially Sean, Mark, and I think Andrew a little bit there, touched on key use cases for yourself, and I wonder how, I think about, when I think about, 5G, which is a bit of a nebulous term, depending on who you ask, but this future next generation, and I mean generally, of networks with smaller cells deployed everywhere with increased capabilities like improved bandwidth, both up and down, and greater capabilities for location accuracy. What do you, if you want to put on your futurist hat, what do you think that, taking the existing use cases you have, be it in maybe, like you had mentioned, auto, Andrew, and for precision agriculture tools, and for the health and medical space, what do you think is around the bend that will be enabled by these increased capabilities, both in urban and rural areas? And I encourage you to wildly speculate.
I think I can kick off, maybe just touching on the auto aspect. I think some probably obvious future things that are going to be made available that might not be ready yet. Kind of as Commissioner Carr mentioned, there were a lot of things that weren't capable prior to 4G that now are. Very similarly, there's going to be a lot of things that are made capable with the widespread deployment of 5G. And I think one of those that's pretty obvious within the auto is just autonomous vehicles. That's a super important kind of trend that seems to be popping up a lot. And I think for that to truly work effectively, 5G is going to be a necessary component of that. Outside of that, maybe less intriguing or futuristic. Just in terms of what I'm seeing, in terms of client requests, we work with a lot of experiential agencies, traditionally very physical sort of experiences that work with brands to create, once again, unique and engaging experiences in physical locations, as well as anything from conferences to pop-up shops to random events. One interesting request that we've been seeing a lot of as of lately is how can we shift to a more virtual sort of strategy where all these interesting, unique, innovative experiences can be offered at a much wider scale versus just someone who happens to live in Manhattan, or a conference that's traditionally you have to travel across the states or across the globe to get to. Being able to host those virtually just as effectively as if it's a physical event. I think those are some interesting things that we're starting to see that, once again, a lot of the requests and requirements of those sort of projects that we're receiving have very high standards in terms of just speed, from live streaming and videos and certain interactions that happen digitally. So once again, that's only made possible with access to high-speed internet. So that's some of the stuff that we're seeing.
Yeah. What I can say is that the things that I'm looking forward to here is there's some basic needs, and then there's, like I can talk a little bit about some of the future things as well. So on the basic needs level, I'll just give you an example of we were out installing our system in a feedlot operation in Kansas. And we're out there, and there's just not very good connectivity. I mean, you could be standing in one spot, and we could see on our phones that we would have, maybe we'd have, 3 bars 3G in one spot, and then you could literally walk a few steps over, and that would change to maybe 1 bar 3G. And when you have connectivity of that type out in these rural locations, it makes it very difficult to implement technologies. So what I'm hopeful for is that the whole bar is raised. There's better connectivity. And that just encourages new advancements. And then as far as what do I think is possible with this, so the things that we have seen is the types of data that we've been collecting on these cattle populations. We're already seeing some very unique patterns. We're learning a lot of new things, that weren't possible before. And what I see happening is that being able to take these types of data sets and being able to combine them with other data sets that are also being collected, maybe not even by the tools that my company is necessarily creating, but able to combine some of these data sets to glean whole new types of information from that. I really think that that's really going to be a lot of progress that's going to lead advancements in IoT, wearables, all this type of stuff.
Right. From my end, if I'm going futuristic, what I believe we're seeing is an acceleration to what I would call a post-mobile world, where the device in your pocket becomes less and less relevant to your personal life. And through IoT devices, sensors, computer vision, basically cameras that can sense human behavior and sentiment, everything in your life will become customized and passively create experiences that you like. Imagine being able to have predictive analytics for an automated car that automatically knows when you're headed home from the office or from a friend's home, and heats your home to the temperature that you like most. As you enter in the front door, your lights turn on. And as you leave a room, your lights turn off, and the heat in that room is optimized to the temperature that you like the most. The shows that you want are that you enjoy are pre-recorded, and everything is right there for you. As we're creatures of habit, more and more things in our lives will just be done through gestures, through automation, and through voice activation. And the phone in our pocket will become less and less relevant because you won't need to type any longer. You'll speak, and computer systems will sense where you are, what you're doing, and what you want to be doing, and then create customized environments at home, in public, and at the office for whatever you're feeling at any time. If you're hungry, imagine food from your favorite restaurant being pre-ordered and delivered to your front door. What we're seeing right now is an acceleration due to COVID of a lot of these behaviors, having things more personalized and having things more siloed into our everyday lives, because we are, in a way, isolated. And over the next 6 to 9 months before we see the advent of a vaccine being rolled out, we're still going to continue a lot of these behaviors with social distancing. And I believe that the the technologies that we are rolling out that are going to be 5G dependent are really going to be powerful to add value into our daily lives and to our society to keep us healthy and happy.
Yeah, that's well, thank you all. First of all, that's great insight. And I am actually kind of maybe building, maybe piggybacking a little bit on something that you just raised there, Mark. I'm curious what all of you think too about how the current environment, the COVID-19 pandemic, and right now we have a nationally declared public health emergency, for example, but is impacting you generally. I mean, that kind of links a little bit back to, for example, our the App Association's 5G infrastructure jobs report that for the attendees, I sent a link to in the chat to shamelessly self-promote, and which we wrote before the public health emergency was declared. So how is it affecting you right now? Is it are things is it like new business and growth or I'm just curious if anyone wants to kind of comment on that. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering.
We do a lot of business in the healthcare space, so our business from the standpoint of revenue has been rather stable through this crisis. We did have a few clients that pressed pause due to budget constraints and pushed back their timelines till later this year. I think some of the really big takeaways that we've seen is our fast adaptation to circumstances on the ground from a workforce perspective. We've embraced remoteness in our organizational structure. We have team members in Florida, Chicago, St. Louis, and other parts of the country, including Atlanta and other parts of the state of California. So we were very quick to close our office and very quick to accelerate the digital transformation into Zoom meetings and virtual get-togethers and Slack, and we just became even more dependent on the networking apps that were keeping us together previously. What we're feeling is that a lot of the upside of living in cities and having socialization, being able to go to a ball game, to a theater and other things have been kind of put off limits due to the pandemic. And that more and more people like myself are embracing a move to rural areas. So for example, I'm in a rural area right now. I'm in the desert, about 2.5 hours outside of Los Angeles. And the only reason that I can operate my company from this space is my reliance on high-speed internet and being able to have my team have high-speed internet access at home and when they're on the road.
Excellent. What about you guys? What about you, Andrew and Vishal?
Yeah, and kind of touching on some of the stuff that Mark said, I think what's kind of interesting with the pandemic, it's almost highlighting a lot of issues that predominantly affect people in rural areas, but are now affecting people in cities as well. Whereas, pre-pandemic, if you live a couple hours outside of, a city, that's a big decision to make. Do I spend half my day literally commuting to go to this place that I need to go to? Whereas now with the pandemic, as things are closed, people who never had to deal with that before, if you lived in the city, are now, struggling to figure out, okay, how do I do X, Y, or Z since everything's closed? So with that being said, I think that's forcing a lot of brands and a lot of businesses to start thinking, how do I serve my customers in these, cities and more densely populated areas without physical contact? So to your, I guess, initial question, it has, I guess, from a revenue perspective, benefited canned spinach in that a lot of companies are now being forced to think about digital strategy and experiences and how they can serve their customers better without physical contact. So that's kind of a lot of what we're seeing on our end. And then in terms of remote work as well, we historically have had a small team at our Cincinnati office. And then we have a handful of individuals who work remotely. And once again, kind of to the point Mark was making, I think we kind of experienced that as well, where without, once again, solid access to internet, it's essentially impossible to actually have remote employees. And one of the big things for us that we've found as a smaller agency is that we can't really compete with the massive Fortune 500 companies in Cincinnati who are, competing for the same tech talent that we are, on thinking about salary as the competitive, sort of differentiator. Like we can't compete on price from a salary perspective, but we can compete on kind of standard of living. So one of the big value adds that we offer to a lot of our employees is the ability to work from wherever you want. And a lot of our developers like to be in those remote, kind of beautiful places where they can go rock climb or, hike or something after work or before work each day. But once again, good internet access is, essential for that to be made possible.
Excellent. I don't mean to. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. So I can, to your question about, how is our company affected? How's our industry affected? Definitely, the livestock industry is taking a big hit right now. You guys have, I'm sure you've all seen in the news. There's meat packing plants are being affected because they can't process as much livestock, or they can't process as much meat because there's restrictions around workers and how closely they can work, which means that the processing plants have lower capacity right now, which then translates into the cattle producers can't get their animals sold necessarily, or can't get as much money for those animals as well, which then of course translates to, for all of us that are meat consumers, when you go to the grocery store, I even see it around Nebraska. Even there's definitely times in grocery stores where you may see some shortages happening. Not permanent shortages, but just temporary shortages happening. So the whole industry is definitely drastically affected right now. I don't think that's going to be a long-term thing. I'm hoping, at least. I think the demand is there for meat production. So I think what we're going to see is that I think things are going to improve. I think the cattle producers' situations will certainly improve. And I think what I think the lesson learned from all this will be is that in production agriculture, we just need better tools that can, enhance the food production value chain.
Great. Well, I did have, I realize we're running out of real estate just a little bit. So I had a good kind of statement / question to maybe take us here to the end, and really invite, comment from any of you, and including Commissioner Carr, if you'd like, about this. But, I'm glad you brought up, you kind of used some key phrasing there, Vishal, which is, endpoint connectivity, I think you said, or something like that, and I think last mile connectivity is something a little bit of maybe a term of art that folks might not be that familiar with. But this declaratory ruling that Commissioner Carr was summarizing for us, and that kind of, is the next very tangible step towards enabling new 5G networks. Very important, thinking about what's next. What do we need next? And that's maybe my question to you all. I can tell you, just from the App Association's perspective, to throw it out there, we've been long working on enabling greater wireless broadband last mile connectivity, from that tower to you, Vishal, for example, to the sensor that Precision Ag installs on cattle. And so, and a key proceeding since we're talking here today mostly about the FCC, is it has to do with enabling the use of unused television channels, which carry very well, penetrate buildings, etc., or long distances to be enabled for broadband use. It's known as television white spaces. So we're continuing to, I know that we kind of all, I throw that out because we all kind of share that priority, I think, there. But that question really is, with that viewpoint, maybe from me, what do you all think? What would you like to see? The government and maybe particularly the FCC do to help you next to realize that 5G connectivity that we're all talking about, needing to enable these crazy innovative use cases? And if we should expect what's around the bend or what's next or what to look forward to from Commissioner Carr, if you'd like to even speculate or anything like that, I think we'd all be immensely interested there too. What do you all think?
Yeah, I can say, I'm going to be repeating myself here, but I can say at least for our use case, it would just be immensely helpful if we can just get better and more reliable connectivity in these rural areas. I think that would be a huge deal for us.
Commissioner Carr, do you have any questions to follow up?
No, it's been great to hear this group. I think it's been helpful to hear their perspectives on how they use it, how continuing the work we're doing to close the digital divide can give another boost to the innovations they're working on. So it's been good to hear you all.
I want to note that I've already been attacked on Twitter for my comment about Skyline Chili. And what good is Twitter if you can't have somebody sending you office memes about my comment? So,
well, Andrew's got to correct me, but if I'm wrong, but I think it's called the three-way, right?
There's the three-way
spaghetti with chili, and then
cheese.
Cheese on top of that. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. So, in keeping with our theme, I want to say that Commissioner Carr, we want to work to give you all the options when it comes to pushing broadband in as many places as possible. We appreciate your work and, frankly, the bipartisan work of the Commission in rolling 5G out. We want to continue to stress our desire to utilize spectrum in the best ways possible. And 5G is obviously a huge part of that. TV white spaces is another. And I think the most important part that my message to you, Commissioner Carr, is very clear. Andrew Savitz, Mark Fisher, Vishal Singh are building companies and hiring people, and they need your help to get the next 10, the next 20, the next 30 employees to help grow their business. So these are tangible benefits of the work that you're doing, and the role the Commission plays is critical for us to get our fingers dirty at the keyboard to make the products that either save a life, save cattle, or help us know what the next thing we need to connect to is and what products that we need to use. So with that, I want to thank all of the participants. I want to thank the Commissioner for his incredible tireless work. And I want to thank our 3 members for, frankly, I want to thank you for making cool products because it gives me something to talk about, and for spending part of your time today here as well. And with that, everybody have a great and safe afternoon, and we'll see you on the next one of these. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.